Okay, so let's begin by rendering the list of friends. And to start, let's again come here to our starter files, and then inside the eat and split folder, let's get app.js and index.css. So both of them, copy them, and I will just, as always, change the name here. And then inside the source, let's paste them. And so here we need to replace both of them because they already existed. And then let's delete all the junk files. So all of these, so that we end up only with app.js, index.css, and index.js. And so now let's get started by opening up this folder in VS Code. So index.js, here we need to, as always, clean up a little bit. And then also remove these files that no longer exist. Yeah, and that's it. So we have our index.css file, which as always, please feel free to explore it. But our main work is going to happen in app.js. And in fact, let's start by creating the app component, which is as always our main parent component. And here, this one, we need to export default because this is the component that index.js imports. Okay, so let's just return some div here. Hello, give it a save, and then let's open up the integrated terminal so that we can start up this app. Just make sure that you are in the correct folder here, and then just type npm start, which should then open a new tab over here. So let's wait for that. And indeed, here it is. And yeah, we got our hello, which is nicely centered. And that is because of the CSS that I provided, and which is, as always, automatically included right here already. So index.js is importing our index.css. And so that's why these styles are now automatically applied. Now back here in our code, we see that we have this initial friends array, which as always is simply an array of objects, and in this case of some friends, where each of them has an ID, a name, an image, which is coming from this URL here, and then the balance that we saw before. And more about what these numbers here mean in a minute. But for now, let's then start building that list of friends component. And here, let's again build all the components right into just one file so that we don't have to jump around all the time. So friends, list. And then here, let's return a list, which for now will only contain list. And so now we will then include this component right here in the app. So friends, list, and no props. And here we will now place this into this div with a class name of app, which has been provided in the CSS file. And then also this should be inside a sidebar. So another div, class name sidebar. Okay. As always, it's a good idea to have the terminal open. And for now, all I'm doing here is to inspect the layout, basically. So here is that div with the app, which you can see is a grid container. And then we have the sidebar. And in there we have the UL, which you can also see is automatically a flex container. So all this layout stuff, of course, I already did it in advance so that we can focus exclusively on React. But when you build your own applications in the future, then, of course, you will have to do all of that as well. But since this is not a CSS course, well, I already wrote it beforehand so that this is a lot faster. But anyway, let's now here actually render these friends that are in this array right here. So let's for now create a variable called friends, which we will simply set to the initial friends. And later on, we will then change this here. But for now, this is the array that we want to render. So let's say friends.map. And by now, you should be pretty familiar with this syntax. So each of the objects is a friend. And then for now, let's just render a list element. And then simply here with friend.name. And indeed, immediately we get Clark, Sarah, and Anthony. So those are our 3 friends. At least the ones that we want to share a meal with here in this example. Now, we could, of course, write the JSX right here inside this loop, but since we will have a lot of code for each of the friends, we should actually move that into a separate component. And so let's do that and simply call it friend. Well, not like this. And so this friend should then probably receive the current friend object, right? And so therefore we accept that here as a prop. Okay, and now basically we can move that here. And then here what we want to render is that friend. And into that friend we pass the friend prop with the value of friend. Close it down, and then we should also, of course, specify the key prop. So this unique value that each of the elements in a list needs to have. And so for that, we actually have friend.id. And so as we reload, it looks exactly the same as before, but we have each friend inside its own component. And so then we start seeing here our component tree. Here we still have the error from before, but now it's gone. So we already have a small component tree with app, friends list, and then in there each friend with their unique key. But now let's keep moving here and let's actually build this list item here. So to make it a bit more complete. So first we have the image of the friend, which is at friend.image, and then we should also not forget the alt tag. So here let's just use the name of the friend. Okay, then we're using an h3 element for the name of the friend. And so that's looking already close to the demo right here. The only thing that's missing is this button and then this text here. Let me actually just reload this so that you can see that we have basically these 3 colors here. So whenever you owe your friend, then the text will be red. If they owe you, it will be green. And if you are even, then there is no styling applied. So let's implement that here. And so let's see what these numbers here actually mean. So here we have this balance property. And if that's a negative value, that means that you owe your friend. So in this case, you owe Clark 7. But if the balance between the 2 friends is positive like here, then that means that the friend owes you. And so let's now use that knowledge here to do this conditional styling and also this conditional text, because they are in fact different. So let's do friend.balance. So if that is negative, then let's render a paragraph with the class name of red, saying you owe, and then the name of the friend, dot name, and then friend dot balance, and then 0, which I don't really know how to type on the US keyboard that I'm using. And so let's just copy it from here. Or of course, you can also use the $sign like this. So that doesn't really matter. But what matters is that now we have this text here. Here we just want to remove that negative sign. So let's actually do math.abs, which stands for absolute, and that's a bit nicer. Okay, and now let's copy this 3 times. And so here I decided to basically use 3 times the AND operator for conditional rendering instead of a nested ternary. So we could also have done this condition right here with a ternary operator, and then in the else branch, we could have another ternary operator for these 2 cases here. So friends balance greater than 0 or equal 0. But since these 3 cases are mutually exclusive, it's easier to simply have 3 times this AND. And so then only one of these will apply. But anyway, here it is green, and here we have no class at all. So no special styling. And here let's say you and your friend are even. Okay, and now here we need to also change the text to your friend owes you 20 euros. And so that's in fact exactly what we have here. Now all we are missing is the button here on the right side. And that's easy enough. Just button with the class name of button. And then select. And there we go. That's our list of friends.